Welcome to UAN New Software Installation and Training. My name is Heather Held. I am a project accountant here at UAN. I work on the support line. Today I will be going over how you are going to install your new software, and then I'm going to show you a little bit how to navigate throughout the application and some of its new features you're going to be able to utilize. So the first thing I'd like to do is to go over our agenda. I'm going to tell you what your computer will need for its minimum requirements. Then I'm going to discuss a little bit about the actual conversion process. We'll do a demonstration within the application. And after this webinar, if you do have questions, please do not hesitate to call the UAN support line. We will be able to answer any questions or concerns that you have. The phone number is 1-800-833-8261. So minimum requirements your computer will need prior to using your installation disk. Basically, your computer is going to need to have Windows 7 or above installed. It will need SQL Server 2012 or later, and that's just if it's installed already. If you use the current UAN computer, this will automatically be installed and updated. If you are using a different computer and you're not sure, or you don't have it, when you use the installation disk to download your new software, then it will automatically install that for you. Computer will need 2 gigabytes of RAM or greater, and everything else that you see here on the screen. So the actual cemetery conversion process. At this point, you should have received an instruction manual via email. So if you've got that and you've got it printed out, then please feel free to follow along in that booklet as we go through the presentation. So the first thing you're going to do, and actually the only thing you will need to do in the current UAN software, is you're going to create an upgrade key. And I will show you how to do that here in just a few minutes. The reason we do the upgrade key is to prevent piracy. You will need to be sure that you're an administrator to create that key, and that you've got the 2015.3 version installed. So once you create that key, it will create a file in your UAN eFiles. What you're going to need to do prior to the installation as well in the old cemetery software is to be sure that you run all of your reports. That way you'll be able to compare after the conversion, make sure everything was converted over properly. So the actual conversion process, there are basically 2 different upgrade paths that you will choose from. So if you are installing the new software on the same computer as your old software, then you're going to choose option A. If you prefer or plan to extract your data from the current computer that you're using and you want to take it to install on a new computer, then you're going to choose options B and C. So now I'm going to demonstrate this for you. So like I had said, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go into your current UAN application, and you're going to create that upgrade key. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here. And you're going to go to General, Maintenance, Entity Setup, Modules. And right here is where you're going to generate that upgrade key. So you just click on that. It's going to tell you that if you are going to be moving this to a new computer, be sure that you've got a flash drive, or USB, a DVD, whatever you are going to want to use in the computer, and make sure that you move this file onto that USB so that you can take it to the new computer. So you just click OK, and then it's going to give you a message that it has created the file in your UAN e-files. So you just click OK there, and you can close this. You won't need the current software for the rest of the process. So now you will receive an installation disk that will do an automatic install for you. However, for training purposes, I'm just going to run the file that is run during your auto run. So the first screen that you're going to see is the conversion path that you are going to choose. So for training purposes, I'm going to choose option A. And then I'm going to click Start. So then now you're going to receive another message that your data file has been created and it's located there in UAN e-files. So again, be sure that you have your USB flash drive handy, and that you'll need to move that file onto that flash drive. So, and let me just stop here for a minute. Let's pretend that you are moving it to another computer. Basically, it's going to stop you right here. And what you're going to do would be to save that file, and then once you take your USB to the new computer, you would use your disk and choose option C. So option B on the old computer, option C on the new computer. And then you just click OK. So depending on your computer configurations, you may see some additional screens pop up here. For most UAN computers, this part of the process should not take too long. Now once you take it over to the new computer, the process could take maybe 45 minutes to an hour. So don't be alarmed if it's taking that long. So then you're just going to click Next, Next, through these screens, and then you're going to click Install. If you are installing this on a brand new computer, this process could take 45 minutes to an hour. So if you're installing it on the current UAN computer with the same software as the old, then it shouldn't take too long. So then you can click, then you can click Finish. And as you can see, you will now have a new cemetery icon located on your desktop. It will also be located under UAN in your programs, and voila, there it is. So the first time that you launch your new cemetery application, it's going to take you through a setup wizard. And the first thing it's going to want to know is, where is that upgrade key? that you created. So you can click on your Browse button, and current computer, it's going to be in your UAN e-files. For the moving it to a new computer, then you should receive it, or you should be able to find it there wherever you had moved it to your USB flash drive. So you just double click on that and click Next. Now it's going to ask you for that file that you created to import your data. Again, you just click Browse, and there it is right there in your UAN e-files. So you just double click on that and click Next. So let me just let you know, if you do feel that your data is messed up to a point where you do not want to convert it, please give UAN a call. We can go over options with you. Just wanted to let you know that. So here is your entity setup screen. The next few screens are going to be completely optional. You will be able to go in once the wizard is completed at any time to edit any of these screens. It's just, this is an opportunity within the wizard when you're first getting started that you can make your edits right away. So these are your cemetery officials, and basically they are going to be listed in the order that they will be listed on your deed. So again, these can be changed anytime in maintenance, but here if you want to remove someone, or you can deactivate, you can add someone, you can also move them up and down. If you would like the order to be different, then you can use the move up and down features. But if everything is the way that you want it on the screen, then you can just click Next. Now here is how your deed will print. If you would like to edit the header, terms and conditions, then you can do so here. If you want to use the defaults, then you just leave it as is. It'll give you the option of whether you want the notary block to print, and then your paper size. So then you will click Next. Now, unlike the current UAN software, for cemetery, we are not going to require that you enforce a backup. We're not going to enforce that. We do recommend it, but it will not be enforced. So if you don't want to do your backups, then you can uncheck this box. If you do, then you can choose how often you want to have that backup done. And you click Next. Now here are your wars screen where you're going to merge them. So say in the old cemetery application, maybe there was a war that wasn't listed and you added it. Well, here, as you can see, for the war on Afghanistan, there's duplicate. So what you can do is you can actually merge them into one. You can choose them both, and what it will do is it will actually go ahead and merge them to the default name that we have in UAN. So then you can just click Save. And then all of the rest of these wars are unique, so you can just choose them, click on the unique, and it'll merge them over. So then you can click Next. Now this is where you're going to add the administrator, and I do want to stress that for the current UAN application and the cemetery application, they are completely separate. They do not intermix. You do not need to be the same administrator for both. They can be two completely different people. You can have different passwords, so they do not intermix there. And it can be the same person if you want, but it doesn't have to be. So for our situation, it is going to be the same person. We're going to go ahead and add Brutus as our administrator. And we're going to click Finish. This is actually when your data will be converted. If you have thousands of files, this process could take a while. We actually here at UAN converted about 20,000 plots, and it took about 45 minutes. So don't be alarmed if you have a very large cemetery and a lot of data files. So after it's finished converting your data, you will receive a screen here that says that the first time you log into your cemetery application, your password will default to lowercase UAN. So you're just going to click OK. And we're going to log in for the first time. I'm entering lowercase UAN. Click OK. And then it's going to tell you you can go ahead and change your password. So we're going to do lowercase UAN, and I'm going to put in my unique password. And click Save. Next in the presentation, I'm going to show you some of the new features in Cemetery and how to navigate throughout the software. So I'm going to go ahead, click on Cemetery, go into Maintenance, and we're going to go into Cemetery Design. So the first thing I want to show you is that these grids can be filtered. So if you want to filter your cemetery, your section, your lot, and so forth, that way you can reduce your list to something more manageable, that if you have some edits to make, you can do so. So now I will show you how to edit one of these plots. So we're going to go into this plot here in Sandy Corners, and we're going to click Edit. It's going to open up the Edit Plot screen. And the first thing I want you to notice is that you can add a picture. So if there's any pictures that you would like to add that has to do with this actual plot, you can do so. We can add some flowers. And then also, you could change them, delete them, what have you. I want to show you one of the new features, that if you enter in a latitude and longitude of a plot location, I'll show you what it does. And you go over here and you click this map. What it's going to do is it's going to show you the exact location of the plot. So if you'd like to show this to one of your customers, or you can save it to the plot, you can print it out, you can even adjust this, you can zoom it out, show them exactly where this plot is located. This could come in handy for a lot of people if they're trying to locate where their plot is, or show a family member, what have you. That is a great feature. So we can actually save this image, and we can name it Plot 1 Picture, or you can name it whatever you want. And we're going to close this out. So also, if you had any additional files that you wanted to associate with this this particular plot, then you can do that as well. We're just going to go ahead and we'll download the cemetery welcome slide. And lastly, in Edit, you've got your plot details. I'm going to go ahead and save this for a minute and close it. I'm going to go here to Plot Details. So if you had any type of specific detail that you wanted to associate with a plot, say that there's a limit as to how high a monument can be, then you can add monument here, save it, and close, and we can close that. If you go back into your plot here and hit edit again, then that monument is going to be there, and then you can enter an actual value. So maximum height, 5 feet. And you can save that. So that is how you can edit a plot. So say I am done editing these plots and I'd like to get my list back to its original state. I can just go ahead and click this Reset Grid Filters, and now it's back to its original state. So one final part, like the old software, where you added a new plot, you basically designed cemeteries. This here, I'm going to show you how you add a plot. Welcome to the Cemetery Design Wizard. So let's say before converting, Brutus started plotting out a new section for Sandy Corners. We're going to choose Sandy Corners, click Next, which for the next step it'll bring you to the next section. Now if this is a brand new cemetery, I will go into later what structures are, but you don't have to pick section, lot, etc. All you have to do is pick cemetery and grave. The rest are optional. So another thing I want to point out, if the cemetery has already been designed, you will have to stick still with the same design. So because we came over from the old application, all cemeteries that were converted will be forced to be cemetery, section, lot, and grave. So that's okay. I am going to go ahead and mark these two sections that I added and click Next. And we're going to say it's only the dusk lot. And then next, we're going to choose all of these graves. So this shows all of what it's going to add. So I'm going to click Finish. One final part I want to show you in cemetery design. So like the old software where you added a new plot, you basically designed your cemeteries. I'm going to click the Add Plots here, and it's going to open up a cemetery design wizard. So before converting, let's say Brutus started designing a new cemetery for Sandy Corners. I'm going to choose Sandy Corners and click Next. Now, the next step is where you'll pick your section. If this were a brand new cemetery, and I will go into later what structures are, but you don't have to pick section, lot, etc. All you have to do is pick cemetery and grave. The rest are optional. Now, if the cemetery has already been designed, you will still have to stick with the same design. But because we came over from the old application here, all cemeteries that were converted will be forced to be cemetery, section, lot, grave. So that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and mark the 2 sections that I added. Click next, and we're going to say it's only the dusk lot. Click next, and I'm going to choose all of these graves. And next. So this is where it's going to show you everything that it's going to add. And I'm going to click finish, and it saved my 20 new plots. Click OK. So that takes care of cemetery design. Now the next section I want to show you is structures. Basically, this is the newest functionality change in the application. Basically, we've added the ability to add different organizational breakdowns. So in the old software, you were basically forced to have your cemetery had a section. It had a lot. It had a grave. So say you have a very small cemetery and you only want a cemetery and a grave. That's okay. Or say you had a very large cemetery and you wanted additional level of detail, maybe more rows and columns, those rows and columns inside sections and lots. So basically, this area will allow you to design your cemetery in more detail. So basically, structures is just a different way to organize your cemetery. Now I do want to point out that all plots must conform to the same structure. Once you design your cemetery, you can't just say, okay, in this section I want rows, but not in this other section. All plots will have to conform to the same structural breakdown. What you see here are actual structure types. You cannot create new ones. Cemetery and grave cannot be renamed. However, the rest of these you can rename them. Also, you can change the order, but let me point out, if you do change the order, it will change the structure for all cemeteries. Basically, this feature takes the place in the old software, the maintenance screen for the graves, the maintenance for the lot, maintenance for section, etc. We basically combined all of those screens now into just one screen. Now you are ready to add a new cemetery. What you would do would be to mark cemetery, click edit, and then this would be where you would put the name of your new cemetery. So how about let's get real creative and enter new cemetery. And this check mark box will indicate that it's active. Make sure it's checked. And then where these little dots are is where you can add an address. So we'll just type in our address here. And click OK. And then also make sure that you use the insert arrow button so that it will be added to your list of cemeteries here. You can also, if you need to edit the address for some reason or to remove a cemetery, this will show up if you had previously inactivated a cemetery. Basically the only way that it could be removed is if there were no plots whatsoever that were being used in a cemetery at all. So just wanted to point that out. Make sure you hit save and close. So now you see here where these structure types are active and then these are inactive. So say I wanted to change the name. Remember I told you cemetery and grave cannot be renamed. And those are the only two that are required. But say I wanted to change the name of structure type 4. I would mark it, hit edit, and here's where I could change the name. So let's change this name to Rose. Now if you are going to go in to one of these inactive structures, do make sure that you activate it. So you'll need to choose active right here. And then we're going to make this available in our new cemetery only. And we're going to push it up into our structures box so that it will be available. And click save and close. So now that we have added a new cemetery, we're going to add some plots to this cemetery. So I'm going to click add plots. It's going to open up the cemetery design wizard. We're going to click next and we're going to choose our new cemetery. Click next. So let's make believe that this cemetery has no sections. We're going to move past this. We don't have to choose anything. But say it has all of these lots. So the next step, as you saw on the previous step in the screen, I changed the structure type 4 to row. So I'm going to choose that I would like that row to be included for my new cemetery. And I'm going to select all of these graves. Hit next. And voila! We've now saved 40 new plots. Now if you notice here, if you're looking at this screen, it's going to show that we have nothing listed in our sections. We didn't choose any sections, so we're not going to have any sections for this cemetery. And click OK. And you can also see that here a little bit better in the sections. So that's how we add a new cemetery and we add plots. So next we will go into a screen called Plots Editor. In the current UAN application in Payroll, if you're familiar, this screen can be compared to Withholding Editor. Basically in here you can change things either by group or individually. So say I wanted to edit the monument height that we had added earlier for a plot. And remember, you can use your grid filters. So I only want to edit the new cemetery. I'm only going to choose the new cemetery. And here, I'm going to choose monument. And I'm going to select new cemetery and change this value to, let's say it's 12 feet now. And then I'm going to click Save. So now you see that the value for our monument in new cemetery is now changed to 12 feet. Let's do something now that you do every day. Let's go into transactions and we are going to sell a plot. And our purchaser is going to be Sam Rings. We're going to, this little radio button here, if it's checked, he's going to be the primary owner. And another new feature here, a couple new features, is that you can now have multiple owners and you can add an owner on the fly here. So if you click the little dot dot dot, let's add his wife Sarah Rings. We're going to save her. Now you can only have one primary owner. So Sam and Sarah, they want to buy a couple lots in Sandy Corners. And let's say they want to buy it in, we're going to do a filter here, in the Dusk Lot. And they're going to buy 1, 2, 3, 4 plots. So we're going to save that. And also here you can enter the deed number, and the date. Another new feature here is you don't need to enter the full date. So say you only want to enter the year, that's okay. And you can always come back and edit. And let's say it's $200 per lot. If there's any comments, you can enter it here. So if they paid, then you would click yes, and haven't paid yet, click no. So that's why I put in that comment. And we're going to click save. Now it's going to ask you if you want to print a deed for all of the selected plots. We're going to say yes. And then it's also going to give you a message, do you want to include all of these plots together on a single deed, or do you want to separate them onto multiple deeds? So we're going to say yes, we just want it on one deed. Now here is how the deed will print. Once again, it's got the deed number, it's got all of the your trustees, your fiscal officer, how they will be listed on the deed. You can, you want to make sure that you choose them all. And say Mary isn't going to be on the deed. You can uncheck her so she won't show up here. Then you can put in your date. We'll just put in today's date. And then here is where it's going to show the amount, total amount for every plot that they are purchasing. It's going to show the owner's names, your deed number, purchase date, and so on. So say because this is a husband and wife, you want it to read there. If it was a single owner, then you would just mark his or her. If you wanted to change how this is going to read, you would click the override, and then you could edit it here. But we're going to choose the default. So another feature we have added is this preview. So now you can preview what the deed is going to look like. As you can see, it shows you where the plot's located and all of the purchase information, who purchased, terms and conditions, and what have you. Now, you cannot print from the preview. If you wanted to print, you would need to close this and print from here. And then lastly here is the deed format. You can edit how your header will be read, or the terms and conditions, the paper size you want it to print on, and your notary block. So for training purposes, I do not have a printer set up. We're just going to click close. It will ask if you want to print it. We're going to say no. And now we have sold a plot. So I'm going to close this. We're not going to sell any more today. So this is the owners section. If you need to edit an owner for any reason, you would go into here. And so let's say 2 weeks later, Sarah and Sam, they come back in and they're ready to pay for their plots. We would go here into deeds and transactions, and you can actually filter by deed number. So we could go in here and find our ABCD 1, 2, 3, 4 and mark it, and it's going to bring up all of those plots that they purchased. So we're just going to go in here and mark that they have now paid for them. Well, they've just paid for this one. So each plot, if they pay for them separately, you would come in and you would mark for each separate plot whether they've paid or not. It's going to ask you if you want to print that deed. This time we're going to say no. And we're going to save. No. And close. You cannot change owners. The buyback and transfer works very similar to the way sell does. And so if you needed to do so, you would use these screens. So that is how you would edit a plot. The last transaction screen is burials. So this should feel fairly similar to the old. We're going to go ahead and click Add, and who we're burying today is Uncle John. So as you can see in the drop-down screen, we've got our grid filters. So if you are looking for a plot, you can choose to filter by any of these grids, and we're going to choose one of the ones we just sold to Sam and Sarah. And like I said, we're going to bury Uncle John Smith. He lived a very long and happy life. He just had his 100th birthday earlier in June, and so we're going to add him, and his date of death was 6/18/2015. We can add his relation to owner. If it's not in the drop down, then you can just type it right in. You can do a cause of death, you can do place of death, any type of notes that you wanted to add in here, you can. And one of the new features we've added, just like in cemetery design, if burials have any additional details, so if there was any additional information that you wanted to track on an occupant of a plot or grave, then you would go back into the maintenance screen, go into burial details, add them in, and then this is where you can add their values in. Right here is where you can add your values in. Sorry, I didn't flip the screen over. So it would show up here, and then you can put the actual value in here. And then here's your comments. So if there were any wars that you wanted to track, war medals, then maybe they've got a Purple Heart, then this is where you would track their medals. So I'm done burying Uncle John. I'm going to click Save and Close. The last component in the new cemetery software I want to show you is reports and statements. This should look very similar to the reports and statements in the current UAN software. I'm going to go ahead and go into grave reports, and you're always going to want to be sure that you choose your drop down. That will show you which reports are available. If it ends in export, that means you can export that particular report. Then you've got, if you wanted to filter by birth or burial date, bequest, sale transfer, you can do so. You can choose your paper size here, and then you've got sorting options. So you can sort by plot here, you can show previous owners, plot details, and then you've also got your grid filters. So if you wanted to find a report that only showed all plots and owners in the Rings family, you could do so here. If you wanted to filter by owner, you could do so here. So you can really break it down. And if you need to reset, of course, then you use your reset grid filters, and it will bring your list back down to its original state again. So then the final feature I want to show you is the search feature. So I could search here for our owner Sam Rings, and then I'm going to click this little search mirror, and it's going to bring up all of the plots that Sam Rings has purchased. If I want to search for, let me reset my grid filter here and reset. Oh, I know why. Because you have to remove the person's name, and then this is where you would reset the list here if you're using the search feature. So say I wanted to search for plot owner, and maybe I'm looking for someone who is not the primary owner. So let's search for Sarah Rings. Click our little search. Those plots are still going to show up even though she's not the primary owner. Now, one thing I want to point out as well. We're going to go ahead and remove, and we're going to reset our filter. But say I go into veteran reports, and I'm in this particular type of report over here, and I'm trying to use that search feature. And then I enter in Sam Rings and hit search. He's not going to show up because he's not a veteran. So be careful when you're searching that you're not in a veteran report looking for someone who isn't a veteran. But here again, you do have a few different reports, your war veterans, your veteran export. So just to let you know, your Graves listing report is a good report to show all plots in the entire cemetery. So if you want to search by an owner, this would be your best report that you can use. These are your reports and statements. Please use them to your benefit. Please be sure to use the sorting options and the search features, the grid features, and be sure that you're in the correct type of report when you are using the search feature and searching by owners. And then lastly, one other feature I do want to show you is the need help. If you click on that, it's going to directly bring up your cemetery manual. So maybe it's after hours and you're stuck on something or not sure how to do whatever it is that you are working on. If you click on any of these options in the table of contents, it will bring up direct steps to access, and it's got a lot of information in here that will help you out, where to put certain information and certain requirements, what have you. So please be sure to use that feature as well. As always, please do call UAN as often as you need to. Anytime you have a question or need help with something. Our telephone number is 1-800-833-8261. Our hours of operation are Monday through Thursday, 7:30 to 5:15, Friday, 7:30 to 4:45, and Saturdays from 8 to noon. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. I hope you're excited about downloading your new cemetery software, and this concludes our presentation. Thank you.